Where are you going?
I'm going to pick a fight.
I guess I just got on my pro-black brothers, and now it's time to get on my pan-African brothers. Just for a second. So I guess I'm gonna pick a fight. Man, I just listened to parts of Holipsism versus Captain America, or Captain American Negro. And they always believe that they shut you down because they have the magic plan to repatriate to the continent and get your own country, which they've never demonstrated how they're actually going to go about that. And no African country that I know of said they were going to give American or 40 million black people land for them to start their own country. Anyway, but that's beside the point. They've never explained it to me. And I am a staunch pan-Africanist, and I've never, ever heard any other pan-African talk about starting their own country on somebody else's continent. Anyway, that's beside the point. So I listened to parts of Holipson's speech or his video, him and Dynast. And I ain't got no problem with Dynast. I really don't have no problem with Holipson for the most part. BAIO, they do what they do. They have their own views about pan-Africanism. I think more people need to be interested in it, and more people have views. I think their ideology is flawed, but like I said, that's beside the point. So I go to his pan-African, so I go to his page. I go to his YouTube page, and being a pan-African myself, I expect to go to the pages, Dynast, and his page and see, current events, news that's going on in the continent, since you're preaching to go over there and start businesses and you're talking about African affairs and things that are going on. What I see is you having words or having opinions against your American brothers as far as ideology. It's an American argument instead of what's going on in the continent. And the reason I went there right after I heard him talking, because it came up on my feed, is that what's going on right now is World Economic Forum is down there in Cape Town the whole week. And you have people of African influence, no matter whether the white folks are there or not, or the Asians there or not. The thing is that the world has come to Cape Town, has come to the continent, because now the continent is on the map. It's an important part. And the World Economic Forum is where the movers and shakers of the planet actually gather when they want to do projects inside the continent or put a focus inside the continent. Inside a particular place like Asia or Latin America or Europe or wherever. And while the World Economic Forum going down there means that the continent is really on the map. Because I do believe if it's not the first one, it's one of the few, and it's the first one that I remember actually on the African soil as far as the World Economic Forum. It's really a big deal. So whether you like the idea of the world or coming to the continent or not, it's a big deal, and it should be covered, or at least it should be mentioned. Whether you're pro or con, it should be mentioned, because you having like 3 days of speeches. And something in there should fire your imagination, or at least get you to think about it. Drone security, peace and stability, money, green economy, fourth industrial revolution, something. But nada. What's going on with ECOWAS should be a big thing. Countries getting off the French CFA, basically kicking the French out and keeping the money for themselves. That should be covered. It should be a big deal. Nada. All these things going on in the continent that are actually revolutionizing the whole space, the whole continent, connecting the continent, it being part of Belt and Road. Nada. Now, I don't keep up with it as much as I should. The Black Brain Trust actually does a lot better job of keeping up with it. In fact, they do a hell of a lot better job of actually covering the continent once a week than I've seen the BAIO do at all. And they talk about things. You know, they have people on the continent talk about things. The direction of the continent, demographics, all the different structural things that's going to be important to the continent. I never hear that discussed amongst the BAIO or certain Pan-Africans. What you're doing is fussing at Black Americans trying to get justice for the people that are here, because you have no plan for 45 million Black Americans. They have to be here, and they have to petition their government for things that their government owes them. They have to do business here. You saying that nobody wants land or nobody wants their own country, like it's sitting there. All people have to do is go and be there. Like it's just a cakewalk. Everybody get their passports, get their money, go over there, and all of a sudden, the kind of Africa is just gonna open up its arms and allow you in and just give you anything you want. Come on, man, that's bullshit. You know that. They're just now opening up where they're actually bringing in citizenship. They're really just not opening up. They're actually giving you an idea of actually giving you goddamn visas, or not visas, but actually a green card to actually be a resident. They're just not really opening that up. All the little structural things that needed for African Americans to actually be there and do things. You didn't cover the banking crisis that went over in Ghana. You guys are there. They had a run on Ghanaian banks. That was never mentioned. That's big news. I mentioned that. Basically, you turn Pan-Africanism, which is supposed to be about business and the future and structural things, because that is what your business is, you turn it into nigger shit. Arguing about Black folks' ideology. That you can't get Black folks' minds here. That you want to elevate yourself over your brethren because you have an ideology difference. And you focus on that instead of what you're supposed to be focusing on, which is the actual business of getting your enterprise done. Actually being over there, talking to people, seeing what can be done on the continent. Because you're promising something that you haven't even discussed with the people whose land it actually is. You ain't going over there to talk to people. You ain't going over to say, hey, we want to start a country within your borders. Not one person. I ain't heard you get one person over there that says we're willing to allow over time or within a 25, 30, 100 years, the African diaspora to come in and have its own country. None of that. Or the eventual repatriation of Africans in the diaspora. I ain't seen not one country lay out a plan to do that. Not one. The only two countries in the world that had a plan to repatriate diasporan Africans are not African, are not Black. One's the European and one's the United States. They're the only two countries ever had a plan to actually do it, and actually carved out land for them. England carved out Sierra Leone for the repatriation of African slaves, and the United States did it with Liberia. Now, they actually did it. They actually put money down for it. They actually carved out land for repatriated African slaves. They actually did it. You guys haven't even talked to people about doing it. You haven't even mentioned it about doing it. And I've talked to enough Africans. They're pretty closed mouth. They're not going to promise something that they can't or are not willing to give. So come on, man. Instead of going back and forth and calling names and calling them bootlickers, calling them Captain American Negroes and stuff like that, you have no firm commitment from no country to get anything done. None. No firm commitment. You got a couple of announcements of areas where basically settlements, and that wasn't even done by you. And it's nowhere near what you're talking about. Because I trust and believe, if you go over there talking to the stuff that you're talking about to them, you're going to scare them. If they thought you had any kind of power where you're going to bring Black folks over there talking the way you're talking, trust and believe you're going to scare them. If you're going to have a channel that's Pan-African and you're going to get on black folks about not being Pan-African, you're gonna have to do more than talk about travel and cultural stuff. You gotta get down to business. And I see zero business on your channel. It's always calling names and attacking other black folks. We wanna shame black folks into seeing your side of the argument. Come on, man. When are we gonna stop that shit? When are we gonna stop that shit? Nobody's gonna travel 8,000 miles, uproot their whole life to go do something else on a freaking pipe dream when you ain't even talk to people. And when they get there, they're gonna get a shock about what they have to do to actually be there. They're gonna get a shock. You gotta give people real pathways. You gotta give them real plans. You gotta give them real plan of actions. They're gonna have to start a bridge. Nobody even has a bridge to actually go over there and do stuff. Not a bridge. Nobody has a formal plan to where African Americans can actually understand a way to actually go there and actually get things done. You're too busy calling names and trying to make yourself superior, which is something that I disagree with. Second thing, about ADOS, American descendants of slaves. I've talked about this before. It shouldn't be the ADOS or whatever we call ourselves versus anybody in the diaspora. Shouldn't be a versus, and that's the problem. Shouldn't be a versus. You making it a versus. Every black person on the planet should be helping African Americans get their just due. Like every black person on the planet would try to get just due for any other country on the continent. Basically, ECOWAS is trying to kick the French out and get their just due and keep the money for themselves and get trade and fair prices for their people and their continent according to their resources. I ain't heard one black person vote against that and say that they shouldn't. We have folks from all over the world coming in investing on the continent and Africans doing business. Or even asking for aid. Sudan just asked for $10 billion of aid. The continent constantly asks the United States for aid, but nobody says anything about them kissing up to the white man or bootlicking the white man. And they're not even citizens of the United States. They weren't raised there. They weren't part of the country. But everybody else can petition this goddamn government for aid and comfort and money, but their own goddamn citizens can't. Get the fuck out of here. We're Sambos and bootlickers because we petition our own goddamn government. Get the absolute fuck out of here. Nobody would say the same thing about the Nigerians or the South Africans, or when Zimbabwe did talk to the Chinese and talk to the British about their affairs. Nobody says a goddamn thing. When African Americans have to go in and do business with the dominant society that where they live, all of a sudden we're coons, bootlickers, and sellouts. Get the entire fuck out of here. And then use Claude Anderson's name. Claude Anderson be the first one to say that you need to petition your government. You need to build your own shit, but you also need to get your just due for the time served and the work that you've done, and also your rights as a goddamn citizen. You didn't swim on the ocean to get here. They brought you here. They use your labor. They owe you just like everybody else. Nobody from the United States is against Africans or Africa getting their just due, or against Africa being free, or against Africa doing anything. And we'd be the first to help them. They should be the first to come over and help us. They should be carrying the goddamn picket signs about ADOS getting reparations. They should be forming councils about how they can put pressure on the United States so that black Americans can get their just due. They should be doing that because they have the resources. They can put pressure on the United States, just like we put pressure on the United States in their stead. Come on, man. Works both ways. No, you don't like to think of yourself as a slave class. That's what you were. That's going to be the mark on history, is what it is. Sure, the African continent didn't like being fucking colonized for 100 years. And partially colonized still to this day. It is what it is. Well, but we'll get over it. But instead of constantly kicking your brothers in the teeth about them disagreeing with you, do some goddamn business. There's plenty of stuff going over there on the continent right now as we speak, as Africa is on the on-ramp to actually advancing and becoming one of the dominant factors on the planet. And basically, I don't see nothing on your page saying anything about it. The United States is not the world. The 50 million black folks on the continent of the United States is not the world. You have 1.5 billion people that you need to focus on right now that you're not. You're too busy beefing with your brothers instead of worrying about you taking care of your business on the other side of the pond. And I think that's where your focus should be. Leave the African Americans the fuck alone, okay? Do your due diligence. If you do your due diligence and you give them a pathway, you have a lot more black folks going your way, but you ain't got nothing for them. And you're mad because they won't accept the little bullet points that you have instead of the actual goddamn plan. Anyway, I'm gonna jump off of here. I guess I picked this fight, and I guess this is just a week for it to let loose about how you feel about certain stuff, because I get tired of certain bullshit that keeps going on, which absolutely makes no sense, and it's actually silly. And I guess the evil twin, I guess I couldn't put the evil twin back in the closet, because the evil twin gets tired of half-ass, nonsensical bullshit. Geminis have a low tolerance for bullshit, and I've seen too much of it for the past couple of years that I've let go. Anyway, jump off here. This is BGS out. See you guys on the next one. Peace.